Invest or Grow It. From the Stash Podcast.
And a huge shout out to Chilled LED. These guys have got some of the greatest American-made products on the market today. Whether you're a commercial grower or a home grower, Chilled has got you covered. From big lights to little lights, you can even check out their ROI calculator. If you're one of the few people who have yet to switch from an HPS light to an LED, well, you can calculate your money and energy saved by switching to Chilled LED. But if you use promo code TheStash15, you're going to save a few dollars off at checkout and thank them for being a sponsor of today's video. Thank you, Chill LED.
Thanks to our sponsors, AC Infinity. Looking for an easy way to improve air circulation in your grow tent? Well, check out AC Infinity's clip-on oscillating fan. It's compact and can easily be attached to your tent poles, providing targeted airflow exactly where you need it. With 10-speed settings and automatic oscillation, you can customize the fan's airflow to suit your plant's needs at different stages of growth. And because it's IP44 rated, it's resistant to high humidity and heat, perfect for your grow environment. These oscillating clip-on fans can also be connected to your Controller 6.9 Pro to be able to have everything dialed in perfectly for your garden. If you want to upgrade your grow tent today, make sure you get that clip-on oscillating fan from AC Infinity. And don't forget to use discount code TheStash15 at checkout to save a little extra on your purchase.
What's up,
Hey
everybody?
guys, good to see you guys. Welcome back. Looks like we've got a guest here today. This is pretty exciting. Another week, another From the Stash. Here we are. I can see Rob, I see Chris, and we got Jinxproof here with us today. That's pretty damn awesome. Jinx, how you doing, man? Good. Glad to hear that, man. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday from the Stash Podcast. See everybody taking a seat here, man. Look at all the love in the chat today. Wow, Big Sexy Buds, A-Game. Thanks for all those gifted subs. That's pretty damn awesome.
Shout out
And
to B for the
D-Squad.
raid.
And B. I don't think we were here last week, boys? Right? Or were we?
We were here
Oh, good. That's what I thought.
every
Moving on.
Thursday, right? Every Thursday.
Were we here? I thought we took a Thursday off. Anyways,
2
I
Thursdays
don't
ago.
remember, man. Maybe.
yeah, I don't remember a week ago.
We do so much content at this point. Like, I'm just like, oh, it all blends together.
It's
But man,
pretty awesome.
it's great to be here with a guest who's been putting in work in the game for, I feel like everybody who's tuning into this, for the most part, we've all grown some plants at home, and we all appreciate that. So we actually got a breeder on the show here, Jinxproof. If you've heard of one classic one here, at least for in Michigan, I know I've heard of, and it sounds like the boys have too, but 9-pound hammer. That's one I feel like most growers have either ran into or consumers have consumed, and it wouldn't have been here without Jinx. So appreciate you pulling up, man.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I was just talking about before we went live is 9-pound hammer is the first cultivar I've ever purchased from a dispensary. And I remember walking in the dispensary and like, if you want something that's going to hit you hard, 9-pound hammer. And it was like $20 a gram at the time. And I was like, oof, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah, that had nothing to do with me. The price.
Yeah,
No shit. Was one of the few that actually backed with the look, had the bag appeal, great bud structure, but it also smoked really good. And I feel like that was really common at one point, and now it's getting further and further and further away. Everything's bag appeal and high THC. But that 9-pound hammer was one that actually produced and got you the funk. So I mean, that's for me was one that stood out. It always has stood out. When people have asked heavy yielders, I've always put that one out as one of them, above like the critical masses or the big buds that, yeah, they yield, but they're not the hitter. You got to add a little more love to it, you know. And I really definitely respect what you've done there, man. And you continue to do it. You continue to breed. Maybe you want to give a little background on yourself and how you got into this.
Well, I mean, it's a story I've told before. Some of you might have heard it. I used to work with Subcool, and
Rest in peace.
I tell you the truth, like back in the day, I didn't even know who Subcool was. I didn't really read weed magazines and keep up with that. I was just kind of doing my own thing, doing the underground grow, stuff like that. And then stuff became legal, and somebody brought me a Subcool menu, and it had those pink strains on it, and I was super interested in those. So I went to his website, and it said available in Washington. So I called every dispensary in Washington, because it was medical back then, and nobody had his stuff. And I finally found one dispensary in Tacoma who had his seeds. And I called them up, and they're like, oh, we don't talk about strains on the phone, because everything was still new back then and stuff. So I live on the outside on the far end of Seattle. So I drove to Tacoma, which is quite a haul for me. It's a good drive. And I get out there, and these guys have one pack of seeds. and it's the one pack like I don't want. You know what I mean? I mean, all respect to Sub, but it's just like a strain I didn't want, you know? So begrudgingly, I buy it. I start coming home, I get stuck in rush hour traffic. So basically, I've spent my entire day going to buy a pack of seeds I don't want. You know what I mean? So I get home and I'm a little frustrated, and I send Sub an email, and because supposedly he had a state distributor. So I tell him my story, and at the bottom of it, I say, if you ever want a real estate distributor, hit me up because I get done. Because that's how I am. When I put my mind to something, I get it. You know what I mean? And like 5 minutes later, he calls me, which I didn't expect to ever hear from him, let alone call me. You know, he's like, "Hey, dude, Sub cool." And so we start chatting about how it works to be a distributor for him and all that. And at the end of the talk, he says, "Bro, do you know how many emails I get a day?" He's like, in the hundreds, and there's no way I can ever read them. But when I came across your email, the title was "Subcool Sucks in Seattle." I didn't even really know him or anything like that. So he's like, "Dude, I had to open that email when I saw that." So we started chatting, and I became his local distributor. So I would buy his seeds up front, wholesale, and then go re-wholesale them to all the co-ops to retail. And like nobody had his here, so the first day, like I killed it. I came back and I took a picture. I was like, "Check it out, bro! Like I told you." You know what I mean? And then from that, we became good friends. And at the time, because of medical, everybody was growing here, so it wasn't really profitable anymore. Aside from growing some stash, back in the day, you can make a living doing it. So I decided I'm going to breed some seeds. I didn't even tell Sub. I just did it on my own because I'd done some minor breedings before just for fun. And I came out with the 9-pound hammer. And when I would go on Subcool sales, I would put the 9-pound hammer for free. So if you came into a co-op and say like bought 2 packs of Subcool, you got a free pack of 9-pound hammer. And it just started blowing up on social media. And then that's when Sub actually contacted me and wanted to add it to his distribution company. So even though I was his distributor, he became my distributor. It was kind of weird like that. And then, like I say, it just kind of took off. And, you guys were talking about earlier, one of the biggest compliments I got was Sub called me and said, "Bro, you hit it out of the park with that 9-pound hammer," which, coming from Sub is a pretty big deal. So I just kept breeding from there and doing our thing. And, I had to learn about social media because, as you guys seen earlier, when we're trying to set up Discord, I'm a techno dummy. You know what I mean? I say different generation for me. So I finally got Instagram set up and started doing that and, some YouTube videos and going to shows with Sub like that and just kind of, created the Jinxproof name and, just been rolling ever since. So, in a nutshell, that's kind of how it happened. I wasn't like, I'm going to become a seed breeder. I kind of stumbled into it. So, but, I knew about it, and I also had access to some brands, not just Sub, but the people he was hanging out with to learn some pretty cool shit as far as breeding and,
It's a hell of a connection.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, we all miss him a lot. So,
Man, so you've been in this game for a very, very long time. So how many, to this day, how many strains or cultivars have you bred, have you created on your own by now?
Jeez. I would guess around 50. I mean, a lot of strains.
Wow.
Miss Rose has like a breeder's guide she keeps for me, and it has all of them in there. Some of you guys know, like I went through brain surgery and stuff like that. I've been pretty open on my social media about it, and a big part of the brain surgery was memory loss. So there's a lot I'm like, I don't know, you know what I mean? But quite a few. A lot of those strains I never put on the menu. A lot of them I give out free at shows. Oh, Miss Rose says I've done over 200 strains. So, but like a lot of them I just give away, like either with a purchase or if you come up to a booth that I'm at, like say I'm working a show, you walk up and say be positive, then you get a free pack of seeds. Just this thing I've been doing, or we donate them to 22 Many, the soldier suicide camp, the soldier suicide prevention campaign, and just stuff like that. So I don't know how many I've released, but I've created a lot more than I've released. So, but I enjoy giving them away. It's fun. So. A lot.
That's kind of what this community is all about, to be honest with you. That the idea of not doing things for profit and doing things for the longevity of our culture and our community, and that's, in my opinion, that's kind of where we've steered away in today's day and age. We've focused more on profits and business rather than community and culture, and I do think we can bring it back, and you're a testament to that. I think it's amazing. Your story starts with Subcool, man. Subcool is such a pivotal creator and member of this space. And to have that starting, that's a hell of a foot forward.
Yeah, he was a pioneer. He was one of the first guys out there, like on the computer, teaching people how to grow for free. Just stuff like that. And like I said, we hit it off right away. You know what I mean? We became pretty good friends right away. And, towards the end, when he started getting sick right before that, I left and I went out on my own, and he wasn't stoked about that. And dealing with his disease, his divorce, his house burning down to the ground.
A lot.
He wasn't in a great space. I left before all that. I didn't leave him in the middle of that. But so there was a minute where he was kind of mad at me on social media. But before he passed, he did get online and say, you know what, I wish I didn't say that shit. Jinx is a good guy, and which really meant a lot to me, because it was those that year was kind of painful for me, because we were good friends and we did a lot together. It had nothing to do with hanging out, family. A lot of times he would call me during those hard times for him, looking for some counsel or just some pats on the back, so
solace.
So it was pretty cool that he did that before he passed. It was important to me, and I believe it was important to him too. So we definitely miss him, and he was a brother for sure.
Like he was from just observation and watching on YouTube. He's a lot like how me and PR were outspoken and passionate. Sometimes we'll say dumb, put our foot in our mouth, and be like,
no,
But it's like the passion is there, and that's the thing that I love about people like yourself, is passion over profit. The profit can come if you can keep that passion going. Right now, it's really saturated with profit over passion in this industry. It's frustrating.
It gets blown out of proportion because getting popular, or however you want to put it, on social media and going on lots of podcasts, like people think more than actually, like people think I'm rich or something. You know what I mean? Like I have a big warehouse and I'm growing millions of seeds. I grow my seeds in a 30-foot room and an 8-foot tent. You know what I mean? It's not like, and I want to keep it that way, like craft breeding. You know what I mean? To me, it's like at the end of my day, I'd rather have a handcrafted microbrew than a Budweiser. You know what I mean? I don't want to be Budweiser. I got no time for that. The more you do that, the less family time you have, the less husband time, friend time. So, I want to keep it as a craft breeder and encourage that too. And, it's been a struggle, but that's okay. You know what I mean? So
that's a conversation Sorry to
I'm not opposed to being rich,
yeah, if you can.
I'm not lying. I buy a lotto ticket once in a while.
We are human. That's fair.
Yeah.
So are you mostly doing inbreeding? Are you doing femmes, or what's kind of your breeding style?
I've never done a femme. I've never done autoflowers. To become a breeder, you have to start with somebody else's stuff. Unless magically something, you get a strain. The hammer, me and my friend did a breeding like years ago, and we just kept them. It was just for fun. We just did like a couple little buds on a big plant, and that's how I came out with the gooberry, which is the gooberry is the mother of 9-pound hammer. So it's just, started as fun. I'm sorry, what was your question, man?
Breeding style. What's your breeding style? You said you'd never done femmes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's like I say. That's the whole brain surgery thing. Is
that's what you got. That's what you got us
on a regular basis. So
surround yourself with good people. That's where it starts.
But yeah, I don't really have the space. We've been talking about doing some femmes and stuff like that. Femmes aren't my deal. Like I've never grown one, but it's not my job to tell people what to grow, whether they should or shouldn't grow femmes. And, I have some things I don't like about femmes. I think you can run into problems, especially down the road once you start cloning. But like I say, it's not my business to tell people what to grow. And I do understand, especially like the European crowd where they're just still growing in little closets, and to buy 8 seeds and have half of them turn out male or something like that can be a real bummer. So we're still rolling it around. We've talked about it. Coming from the Subcool school, like Sub was not about femmes. You know what I mean? He used to wear a shirt on his show said fem seeds are for I don't feel that way. I don't feel that way, but like I said, I'm a small craft breeder, so I gotta be careful like taking on another project, because then I'll fall behind on my main project, keeping my inventory up and stuff like that, so possibly down the road. But yeah, so right now it's just my biggest thing right now is to breed Jinxproof times Jinxproof. That's kind of where I was going with when you start, you have to start with somebody's shit and breed it together, create your own strain, So my big deal right now is not going out as much. I don't really care about hype strains, strains that are the biggest thing for a year or whatever. I'm not against that. That's, more kudos to those guys because it's a hard thing to accomplish. But right now my big thing is, like I said, breeding Jinxproof times Jinxproof, So, yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I actually grew up one of your cultivars probably 4 or 5 years ago now. It was Hit Girl.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I love that one. Massive flowers on that one. I had a whole bunch of different cultivars in the room at the same time, and this one was the biggest one. Biggest one,
yeah.
Huge flowers on it. And, man, I missed that one. It was a great smoke, too.
I post some pictures of Hit Girl once in a while, and it is probably the strongest I've ever bred. Like, it's the first that, like, after we bred it and grew it out, I sat down and took 3 fat bong hits. So that was always my deal, was just 3 bong hits in a row. And I was like, first time since I was a kid where I was like, I'm fucking too high. I've passed that ratio into like, whoa, it was like I did a dab or something, because I'm not a dabber, you know what I mean? I felt like I did a dab or something. So it's currently not on the menu, but it will come back. Like I said, being a small breeder, that does happen where sometimes shit goes off the menu and it takes a minute to bring it back, but it's not gone forever. So, but that was also part of that blood wreck, which is a really hard strain to get, like a few people have it, hoard the hell out of it. I managed to get it from Sub's partner Dioxide, so I knew it was the true blood rack and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a fun one. And trying to think of, I got the name from that movie with Nicolas Cage, and he's a superhero with his daughter. Hey, Rose.
I'm not a movie guy. I'm the worst guy.
What's the name of that movie Hit Girl's in?
Kick-Ass?
Kick-Ass. Remember that show, Kick-Ass?
Oh,
Yeah.
And his daughter is Hit Girl.
The chat knew it. Chat knew it real quick.
I use the chat as a cheat.
She pulls out that giant blade with all the bad guys, and she says, "You cunts are dead." She's like 11 or something. So I'm like, "Hey, girl, that's a killer name for a strain." Because it's hard to name strains. You know what I mean? Me and Rose go round and round about it, and she'll come up with a strain. I'm like, "That's the dumbest name." Then I'll come up with one. She's like, "That's the dumbest name."
Well, brainstorming. We do it all the time. Titles of videos, thumbnails. Yeah, we do it all the time. Like, that's good.
Yeah, it's hard to do. Like I say, we hardly ever agree. Sometimes I'll just give in, like, okay, that's the name. You win.
Who came up with 9-pound hammer?
Me.
You did? Any inspiration for that?
There's a couple old songs called 9-Pound Hammer. Like the one is like, was it John Henry or whatever? And he's racing the railroad dude to build the tracks, and he's using a 9-pound hammer to drive the spikes into the railroad track. It's an old school song, and I just, when I heard that, like, I've always thought, like, that's such a cool name, 9-pound hammer. And so when I finally actually did a breeding, I was like, yeah, that's my name right there, 9-pound hammer. And it suits too, because 9-pound hammer, it hits you like a 9-pound hammer. The biggest complaint I get about 9-pound hammer is that it's too strong. People are like, I don't like 9 Pound Hammer. It ruins my day. I can't get off the couch. Whatever.
It'll make you
Which
go to sleep.
I'm all about that indica heavy foot myself. Like I don't even smoke sativas. They give me anxiety. I feel like I'm on crack or something. So for me, that's a great compliment. So
That is a great compliment, but of course not for everybody, right? There is,
Yeah.
I think I would do quite well off of something that's going to just put me to sleep. That's how I start my day, actually. So it's
Well, the thing for me is like I don't know if you guys know, but I'm a glass blower also, and I work on a lathe.
Yes.
I make bongs, not the hand stuff where you make little pipes usually. And the thing for me is like if I smoke 9 Pound Hammer, like my TV somehow clicks on and the foot to my recliner pops open. I take the hammer and my bong to my torch and then smoke. Like now I'm in a zone and you can't stop me. You know what I mean? It's like I'm just so focused, and I'll literally crank out 30 bongs in a couple hours. You know what I mean? And
Awesome.
so it's a matter of if you are going to smoke it and do something, like say, get to where you're about to do something before you then smoke. Don't smoke before, before you get off the couch. So it can be productive.
Yeah, I was checking out your Instagram just before you popped in, and you're quite open about your glass blowing, and man, your work is awesome.
Thanks.
When you blow that to blaze out of it, like you smoke out of your own pieces, or you're a glass guy when it comes to consumption?
I am 100%. Definitely not metal pipes. I mean, when I was a kid, metal pipes were cool, but I mean, like say I'm 54, that was back in the old days where only drug dealers had glass bongs because they were so
Yeah.
expensive. Before I was a breeder, glass blowing was my living. And bongs, like say, I work on a lathe. It's different. When you see people make pipes, they got that long tube of glass and they're blowing on like that. Where I actually work on a lathe, which is how you make bongs. And very few people work on a lathe. For one, a lathe is not cheap. I sold my 1948 Harley Davidson Panhead to get my lathe. You know what I mean? $14,000. It was a pretty big sacrifice, but I wanted to do it so bad. I made that sacrifice. Currently, I'm only hitting the vape pen because aside from my brain surgery, I had a heart attack. And it almost killed me. Like it was bad. Only 12% of people survive this kind of heart attack, and I managed to. And it's kind of funny because my heart surgeon, he knows who I am, and he's like, I don't want you smoking. And I was like, I don't smoke because I've never smoked cigarettes ever. Like one when I was a little kid, barfed my guts out, and I was cool. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't smoke. And he looks at me and says, I don't want you smoking anything. Like he knows, I know you're a weed dude. So I've resided to the vape pen for a while. You know what I mean? Just because even smoke, if you've had a heart attack, is hard on your heart. So I currently don't smoke out of glass. I'm hitting the pen. Once in a great while, I'll take a little bong hit. But I'm trying to be careful because it's certainly not worth having a heart attack. But
no, and that's the beautiful thing about our plant is that you can use it in a new number of different ways. To try hit what works best for you.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, after going to the vape pen, when I do smoke, my tolerance has dumped. So I'll take a little bong hit and just be baked. You know what I mean? Even though those vape pens are strong, they're oil. You know what I mean? They're pretty strong, but you still aren't getting all the elements of this. You know what I mean? You're only getting the oil. So when you get all them elements working together, you know what I mean? It's like a team. So I just get baked out of my mind. So that's actually kind of nice. So. But we'll see how it goes and what my doctor says. My heart's getting better, so that's good. But
good.
Like I say, when you as a younger person, I really didn't care about stuff like that. I lived a pretty wild life, but now I'm a husband and I'm a father of a special needs child, so it's important to me to live as long as I can. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, a lot of times my son has been here when I've had a massive seizure or when I had my massive heart attack and had to see that. And it's, even though he's autistic, he knows what's going on and he knows dad's in trouble. So it's you gotta, what matters to you more, you know what I mean?
Of course.
Absolutely, man. Respect for that too, dude. It's really maintaining the lifestyle while not hurting your life. It's not easy. Some people can't mature out of that. And
it's hard because I'm a hardcore. The first serious conversation Rose and I ever had once we started dating, about our third date, it was getting serious. Like we're about to be boyfriend and girlfriend or whatever, however you want to put it. And I looked at her, I said, she knew I smoked, but I don't think she knew the degree yet. And I looked at her, I said, you've got to know, I smoke a ton and I always will. So if it's a problem, say so now. She just she goes, I know, baby.
I see it.
She took the whole package deal, so.
It's true
Good.
love right there.
Keeper.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
So.
I mean, when I was checking your Instagram, you are very vocal about living with a child with autism.
Absolutely.
How does cannabis help you function and or deal with that? Because that's a lot. It's a lot to take on.
Well, for me, cannabis helps me, especially after becoming epileptic. That's why I had brain surgeries. I wasn't raised epileptic, like 10 years ago, whatever. I was sitting in the living room with Miss Rose, went into a grand mal seizure. I mean, like a bad one. Luckily, Rose was home. Rose used to work in the fitness industry, so she knew how to do CPR. She actually had to give me CPR because I was suffocating to death. Like my face, my tongue, and my hands were blue. You know what I mean? Like, your hands are blue, you haven't taken a breath in a long time. You know what I mean? So then I had a few more seizures, and basically I was epileptic at this point, and that came with a lot of stress, mad anxiety. Like, we'd be having a barbecue at our house, and I'd have to step away for a while and like go lay down in my room because it was just, so the, mild doses of definitely helped me with that. Too much cannabis can heighten that, you know what I mean, to where it actually can cause me to get a little anxiety. So moderation with it definitely helps me with that. And having an autistic child can be very stressful, you know what I mean. So it helps me not get stressed out with my wife or my kid, and do things maybe I normally wouldn't do as far as my tolerance with anger or being upset. So it definitely helps me moderate my mood. You know what I mean? Which is important because when it first started happening, it took me a second to realize it was happening. Like I was getting kind of aggro. I was short with Miss Rose, like I might answer something real short or kind of, and then I realized it one day and I was like, man, what a dick. You know what I mean? Like, you got the best wife in the world. You have this super special son. So I just called myself out. I actually went and apologized to Rose, which was a very hard thing to do. You know what I mean? And it broke me off basically. And, so then I was like, I need to reshape and reform my life. And, this was definitely a part of that, So
Good for you.
Yeah,
Good
that's
for you.
great.
It's a hell of a journey, man.
Well, I was going to say something you've had in your whole life. It's great when you look at too, like this has been able to make it so you're able to grow as an individual with patience, which I feel like as a grower, it's just like, in martial arts, like you learn these other things for life that you take with it. My patience has gotten so much better since being a grower over the years because plants growing how it grows, it does what it does. You can help guide it, but it's a plant, and then as a breeder, it's even more. So,
growing is very therapeutic. You know what I mean? If you love it, you know what I mean? If you're not just doing it for money, like you actually enjoy it. And, there's been times where I'm having a high anxiety day and I'll just go sit in my grow room, and the light, which is kind of, puts off the same rays as the sun, not the same, but you know what I mean? Just sit there with my plants. I'm not there to garden or anything. I'll just have a milk crate in my grow room. I'll just go sit there for a while and look at the plants and soak up some of that grow light, you know what I mean? And, it'll kind of bring me down, and it's kind of like meditating, but working with the plant too, if you love it, and setting a goal, like today I'm going to strip all these plants, like prune them up and shit, and then getting that goal done, and stuff like that. It's very therapeutic, and I hear that from a lot of people. You know what I mean? Aside from just growing bud. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I feel like when you're doing that, you're in the moment. You're in the current present right now. Whatever was in your head is not as relevant because you're doing something. And for me, being in the garden, again, that therapy of it, like it straight up is a therapy. And then when you got flowers blooming beautifully, it's that aromatherapy. And you're just like,
it's rewarding every time. If growing isn't therapeutic for you and it's the opposite, say it's stressful or anxiety, then it's not for you. And my opinion, like, your energy gets all up in everything you do. So if you're in your grow room all anxiety down, that shit gets all up in your plant and gives your plant anxiety, and will even, in my opinion, affect the final product. You know what I mean? You know, how it affects people that smoke it, or how it turns out, or, you know, stuff like that. Like, my opinion, you should never be in your room all angry or stressed out. You know what I mean? I mean, they are living things and they do pick up on it, you know, just like they've done those scientific research, you know, where they hook a little thing up to a plant and play music, and the plant's more vigorous and happy. You know, like, it absorbs your energy, and it, you know, if you're aggro in there, I think it considers you a predator. You know what I mean?
I've always said that you can taste passion, and I mean it, because I feel like that's where that's what big is missing. That's, you know, this stuff that's being pushed so fast, so quick, no real ripeness to it. It's not ready. There's no passion. It's the profit. Passion versus profit.
Yes, I absolutely agree. I had a farm approach me in Oklahoma, and it seemed like it would be a fun thing to do. And it was a big farm, you know, and I started working with them, and it sucked. You know what I mean? It was very stressful. They were only about money. They were not true to their word, you know, and things they were supposed to do for me, and vice versa, and this and that. And I'm glad to not be a part of it anymore. You know what I mean? So it wasn't. It seemed interesting and kind of fun, but it wasn't. You know, it was a drag.
Dodged a bullet.
Yeah. So we got out while the getting was good, and, you know. So, and plus, I gotta be surrounded by positive people that stick to their word, and, you know, stuff like that too. I can't fake the fun. You know what I mean? So.
Amen to that. That's the problem too, is again that profit versus passion argument. We've talked about it a lot on this channel. You know, when you look at the industry, it needs to have the profit side too, but this is the rare one that truly needs to have the passion. It's a community first, industry second. You know, you can industrialize our community as much as you want, but once you make it a commodity and everything's the same, it takes that energy out of it. Everybody smokes that at the dispo, and it's not as good. There's a few. I've been really lucky to find a company, like I work with Franklin Fields here in Michigan. We started as caregivers and then worked our way to this, and it's only been like 3 years versus other companies who got in as soon as it was legal. They were just money, you know, MSOs dropping cash in and didn't care, you know, and you could tell by the flower. You just don't care.
Yeah, and that's not to badmouth legal weed, because there are what I would call micro farms, craft growers, or, you know, like in Washington, you have tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And if you're like tier 1, you're pretty small. You know what I mean? If tier 2, you're allowed so many plants and so much space. Tier 3, like you're growing in warehouses. And there are still some craft growers, and, you know, they're, you know, actually can tend to that many plants compared to, you know, 2,000 plants or whatever. And you can still find it, but unfortunately, the big farms are squeezing those farms out, because the big farms are selling at 10 cents a gram and shit, because they're growing so much. And then you're a craft grower and you go to sell your weed to a store, and they're like, well, we only pay 10 cents a gram. And to a craft grower, that's like, well, I just grew an entire crop and you're going to give me, you know, $400 for it, or, you know, some ridiculous. So, but unfortunately, that's the American way too. You know what I mean? It's the you know, let the little guys do all the work, and then the big guys come in and take over with their money. So, but there's still a few of them out there. And if the consumer is conscious of that and maybe does a little research, or, you know, tries to find those, you know, those craft growers, and that's righteous. I'd rather smoke some less quality grown by a craft grower than some bomb ass weed grown by Budweiser or Pepsi, or, you know, or however you want to put it. You know what I mean? So,
well, the beautiful thing is those Budweisers grow mids. They try their damnedest, but it's like they're that cost per pound focus. They're like, we got to get our costs $200 a pound so we can sell it for $450 or whatever we want. And then the dank ones have to suffer and still lower their price just to make it. But again, the passion exceeds the profit, and you never really get rich in this green rush that people say. And that's okay if you're making an honest living doing what you love. Well, you know, it's tough though.
Most places, it seems like a race to the bottom. You know what I mean? Because even these big farms are cutting each other under, and it's just like, you know, I know some huge farms, they ain't made a dime yet. You know what I mean? They spent $2 million to get started and all this, but it's just a race to the bottom. You know what I mean? So, you know.
It'll change. It'll change. You know, you know, we have Idiom in the chat over here on Twitch, twitch.tv/FromTheStash. Come check us out. He actually says, you know, it'll come back around, kind of like craft beer did. And, you know, craft beer now is the thing. Nobody wants Budweiser. Nobody wants Bud Light. Nobody wants Molson Canadian. I guess I was gonna say Moosehead, but it's kind of getting mainstream. But anyways,
That's old school.
yeah, right. But it's almost mainstream now. But anyways, I agree. I think that the people are going to demand good product for a good price. People are tired of going to a dispo. Like right now, the issue that we're having in Canada is that Health Canada is not regulating the percentages. So these companies are putting 38% THC on their package. Independent testing's coming in at 12. Like it is a significant, it's not a little difference, it's a huge difference. So you can't even trust the big names. So I honestly believe that the faith will lie in the craft grower, in the smaller grower that's going to be faithful or at least honest to the grassroots, So
I did a podcast with Jorge Cervantes and Subcool and a few other guys, and they're like, those numbers aren't true. He's like, 38%, that's more than a third of the plant. You know what I mean? It's like, it's impossible. And they were kind of joking at the end of it. They said, whoever's giving out those numbers, get tested there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, right.
Like 42%. And, and some of the, I think because there's the testing labs, it's a profit agency also. So if they're giving out these big numbers, people are going to get tested there, so it's kind of silly. I really don't care about numbers. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's about the bag appeal and the smoke. You can tell a lot by looking at a bud, but not always. I've had bud that wasn't that frosty or whatever. Then you sit down, take some bong hits, and you're like, yeah, I'm cruising. You know what I mean? So a lot of it doesn't just boil down to the farms. It boils down to the consumer and being willing maybe to do a little research or, finding those independent brands and supporting those guys. And, because they're getting squeezed out quick. You know what I mean? Like even what you said about the microbrews, Budweiser owns distribution rights to almost every microbrew. It's like, you're not going to sell our company. We're still going to distribute it because we own the rights to all the stores. Stores don't buy your beer and resell it. You rent that space. In the refrigerator, guess who owns it all? You know what I mean? So one way or another, they squeeze in there because, I don't drink because of the whole epilepsy thing, but I used to. And same thing, I was all about the microbrews, good craft beer, and it still exists, but unfortunately, they're all distributed by Budweiser, so it's the same thing. It is and will be the same thing in the industry, unfortunately, so.
Well, and that's where a lot of them, as the licenses change and it's state by state and province by province, you've got these vertically integrated companies that also get testing facilities. And then they also get, their own dispensaries too, which I work for a company. We got our own place, but super humble in how we do it. We could flex a little more. But again, when I got in there, we were trying to keep up with the Joneses, and you can't be a family owned company on a very limited budget and try to keep up with these people with endless money. But then we see brands like Skymint, who is like the devil here. They owe Canada $150 million, and they can't seem to get it back because they're pissing it away because, the quality sucks. It looks like they're killing it, but they're not. Realistically, the smaller guy is usually better.
If you guys could hold on 1 second. Hey, Daniel. Can you bring me my phone charger and some way to plug it in, please? My phone's like the light just went darker, which means my phone's
getting
going
there.
dead.
It's getting there.
I'm trying to get my bonus son to help me out.
Good choice. Yeah, good choice. We hate to lose you.
Damn, he just quaked out. What a dick.
No, it'd be good. We almost had enough. No, I just to kind of quiz you more a little bit. What are you working on right now? Is there anything that you can share or?
I'd have to get the breeder's log from Rose. Hey, Rose. She's like, I get it.
I got it.
Like I say, I have a hard time pulling that off the top of my brain. But yeah, we have some new stuff, and we don't release anything until it's gone through a vigorous test grow. Like I even have a test grow server on my Instagram where we use 8 to 10. Is there a page that's the newest stuff? So
my newest
like
releases?
what we're testing right now, like we're on the verge of releasing stuff like that.
That's not on here.
That's the wrong book. But like I say, we go through a pretty vigorous test grow. The number one thing right away is stability. We're not trying to release any herms or anything like that. And then it boils down to, quality, flavor, stuff like that. So we have a bunch of stuff in test grow right now. And like I said, I don't care if it doesn't pass tests, I'll chuck it in the garbage, which is kind of painful. It's a lot of work, and so, okay. I've
I'm
got
sure,
an
like I said, the
electric.
passion's got to be there. Otherwise, it's no longer big money like it used to be back in the day. I think people are seeing that where someone jumps in from a different state. They're like, oh, yeah, we're going to get tons of money. It's like, you better just really love this plant, man. You better
Yeah,
love
well,
this plant.
I've seen some of the bigger seed companies, and like on their social media, thank you, they'll be showing their crop and like what they're growing, and then like 2 weeks later, it's available. It's like,
Yeah.
if you can figure out a way I can do a test grow in 2 weeks, please let me know, because it takes us about 5 to 6 months. I mean, flavor test, grow test, pictures. I mean, there's a lot involved, and it's kind of funny because it's really hard to find good test growers. And like I've run posts and stuff before, and people will apply to be a test grower, and they'll promise you their firstborn. You know what I mean? But then you never hear from them again. They get their free seeds and they're gone. So Rose does this thing where if you're a new test grower that we don't know, you don't get to know what you're growing until you've completed your commitment. Until we get the results,
idea.
the
Good
pictures,
idea.
the writer, and then after that, you get to know what you're growing, and you get to pick 2 free packs from the menu. I mean, plus you get a brand new strain that's not even released yet. You know what I mean? So, I mean, it is worth it. I mean, we're not asking that much. You know what I mean? It's
That's
like I say,
a hell of a
we
deal.
just want some results. Did you have any problems? Did you like this? Didn't like that? What's the smoke like? Some decent pictures, So, I've seen a few other seed companies jump on board with that. Like, that's a good idea. 'Cause, it's
the way
very
you're
common.
doing it,
So,
it can have a non-biased review versus them being like, oh, I know I want this one. It's like, let them figure it out and try it,
Yeah. Well, it's
that's
just
a
so
good way to do it
disappointing
generally.
too. You put your trust in somebody and give them some free stuff. It ain't that big. We're not asking you to write a book or nothing. You know what I mean? You can do it in an hour.
You get to keep when you're done. Like,
Yeah, what a great deal.
darn.
Free genetics.
Yeah, that too. And like I say, you got the jump on it before anybody even has it. You know what I mean? So some of the stuff we're testing right now is we did about 6 strains times one of our strains called It's Fire. And to It's Fire, we bred Shangri-La, which is one of my early strains, probably maybe my 3rd strain, like way back when I was still hanging out with Subcool. Hash Gooberry times It's Fire, which Hash Gooberry is the bomb. It's one of my faves right now. Go Time times It's Fire. Go Time is one of my few strains that leans on the sativa side, because I'm not a sativa smoker, so I should focus on it more for the crowd. But because I'm such an indica smoker, it kind of gets ignored a little bit. But my favorite thing about Go Time is when I'm at a show and Miss Rose comes with me, somebody will come up and I'll say to them, hey, go over there and ask Miss Rose why it's called Go Time. And she's like, quit telling people to do that. Because guess why it's called Go Time?
I gotta guess.
Certain strains are known for having an aphrodisiac-like effect, and apparently Go Time is one of them. I've heard it from
Go
other
time,
people
baby.
too. Yeah, it's not a fight.
Sign me
So.
up.
And then we have our 9-pound punch times It's Fire, my Afgooey times It's Fire. We have a 9-pound hammer times Main Squeeze, which Main Squeeze is a newer strain that really turned out bomb. Morning Vibes times Hell on Wheels. Hell on Wheels is a crazy strain. It's got them rails, the trichomes going down the sugar leaves and all that. It's probably one of my faves. Ice Cream Cake times Hash Gooberry. Fudo Mayo times Hash Gooberry. Fudo Mayo is a strain I actually got from a Japanese pen pal, and I have no idea what the pedigree is. I just met some dude online years ago, and he sent me a pack of seeds from Japan that supposedly him and his homies had made, which is a pretty big deal because in Japan, if you're growing, you're either risking a limb or you're Yakuza. You know what I mean? Like, they don't play over there with growing. You know what I mean? Like, it's super illegal or it's controlled, by the gangsters and like that. So who this dude is or whatever, but he sent me a pack and it's fire. It's chronic. So I've bred it a few times. So I bred it to the Hash Gooberry. our Madcap, which is a bomb strain times hash gooseberry, and then mint sorbet times hash gooseberry. So those are the ones that are currently in testing, and hopefully will make it to the menu. There'll probably be one or two that we squeeze out because they don't pass, or stuff like that.
So lots of good stuff incoming there. Now let me ask you: are those all first generation, or do you go down multiple generations before kind of releasing to the public?
It's always different. So it just kind of depends. It depends on the plant that I put in the room. Could be an F2, or it could be an F1, it could be an F5. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's always different. So I don't follow a super strict regiment. You know what I mean? I like to do what I want to do and stuff like that. And I've taken bags of seeds this big and chucked them in the garbage. Because they didn't pass test. And I don't really want to name a big strain that we bred was a real classic strain, and I got multiple herm reports. You know what I mean, from 3 different people. So I don't want to disrespect the strain because it's a good strain. I'm not saying it's a herm, but the 2 plants, I always say, 2 pretty people can have an ugly baby. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that. So, and that's hard to do, to throw that many seeds away. It's painful, because it is part of our living and stuff like that. But I see some of these guys on social media, man, they take a beat down for not test grinding, releasing herms and stuff like that. And I'm not trying to be one of those guys or join that club. Plus, you know what I mean? We work hard for our money. Why should we not be giving people quality product for working hard for their money? You know what I mean? It's only fair. So
The way it should be. Yep, that's the way it should be. There's a common question in the chat. They're kind of asking, what do you look for in a test grower? Asking for a friend.
Well, a test grower, they actually have to contact Miss Rose, and then she sends them, excuse me, like a little couple paragraphs of what we expect. We want a grow report. We want to know, was there something the plant liked, something the plant didn't like? Did you have this problem? Was this a benefit of growing it? How you grew it? We want a smoke report, flavor report. We definitely want some good pictures, quality enough that we could put them on our website. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's basically you go through Miss Rose. She sends this thing to you, and if it seems like something you can fulfill and are willing to fulfill, then if she accepts you, then she sends you the seeds. And one thing we want is if we send you some test seeds, we want you to plant them right away. We've had a couple test growers, and like 5 months later, hey, I'm germinating those now. It's we've already canned them or on the verge of releasing them because of our other test growers. So that's a big one, is being able to get it going right away. You know what I mean? So
You prefer indoor versus outdoor, LED
I don't
versus...
care about that. You
No?
can do hydro because all my customers are indoor, outdoor, LED, old school, dirt, so we're really open to that. How you grow is fine with us, and we'd like to actually have different mediums and stuff like that, because then because there are plants that don't like hydro, and there are plants that do better here, do better with this, or salt growers, or living soil growers, because all of our customers are different. You know what I mean? I grow in super soil. I'm pretty old school, keep it pretty simple, but that's not everybody, so yeah. But like I say, yeah, Miss Rose handles all that. So they have to go through her, and then like I say, if she accepts them, then so. But like I say, it's a hard thing to do, because like say, so many people just get their seeds, you never hear from them again, so.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess
pretty
it's
common. People like to do
personal
stuff
integrity thing. Yeah.
until they have to do something for you. And it's
Yeah.
Free
We're
stuff
not
for work?
Yeah, we're not asking that much. Like I say, if you kept a few notes, you could sit down at the end of your crop and fulfill our needs in an hour or two, at best, or just keep notes as you go along. You know what I mean, and then turn that into us. And the picture thing's a hard one, because we've had pictures where like that's a nice picture of the bud, but in the background is your kitchen with a bag of Doritos and a crushed up Pepsi. It's we can't fucking put that on our website.
Yeah, it's try to think about aesthetics a little bit.
This road's old school. Our kitchen's clean. We can't. So that's we want maybe drape a cloth behind it, or take a decent picture. So the pictures are a tough one too. So.
And that's also, I think that's fairly reasonable, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
If you want to be a part of, in my opinion, history,
Yeah.
I think that's a fairly reasonable request.
Yeah.
Because I'd be asking for a hell of a lot more than that. As a creator, I want video. You know what I mean? I want video testimonials. I want, you know what I mean? So I think that's a fairly decent request by you.
Well,
and man,
you
put my
get a
name on the
few
list.
growers who go above and beyond, and you do get some videos, or there's been a few times guys have like video called me on Instagram and like, dude, let's do a walkthrough, and they zoom all up.
Sweet.
And of course that shit's nice, so.
And that's got to make you feel good too, man. Like that's your work, that's your passion that someone else is electrified by.
Yeah, and a good tester that enjoys it can be a tester for life. You know what I mean? A lot of you guys have seen that I hang out with Mary Jack. Like, he's in my booth a lot, and he's on my Instagram a lot. He started my Discord, and he was a tester, and he was a phenomenal tester. And I was at a show one day, and in Oklahoma, and Rose was telling me one of the testers is showing up. His name's Mary Jack. You know what I mean? And take some time and get to go know this guy. He's a good guy. He's one of my best friends now. You know what I mean? Like, we're brothers. His son calls me uncle, and we hang out, we visit. Our families get together, and they'll come to Seattle, or we'll go there. And he's become my right hand man at shows, because when I go to a show, I have to have a babysitter, because in case I have a seizure, I have to have somebody smart and knows what to do and can take care of me and will take care of me. And, say I had to go to the hospital and there's 3 days left, I can go and run my booth, just, something like that. So he takes care of me too. And, so it's been cool, because we met through testing, and like I said, we're lifelong buddies now. I love the dude. It's like his son is super close to me, and our wives get along great, and it's been a cool deal. So
that's what this community and culture is all about, man. It's awesome hearing about it.
Yeah,
it should be. You're right.
Any culture, there's going to be this and there's going to be that, but we try to focus on the positive part of it, and being a community, not just a culture. In my opinion, there's a difference. And
huge difference.
And helping, being there for each other, and stuff like that. Like, say with Subcool or even Mary Jack, there's been times where we've called each other just looking for some brotherly love. Like, I'm having a hard time today, or my world is dark today, and I need a friend to brighten it up, or just give me some advice, or so. And I have a mentor. His name is Andy. When I was a kid, my pops died pretty young, and this dude actually rented a room from my mom. Because him and my mom are both going to the same college, and he totally became a father figure, mentor to me. You know what I mean? And to this day, we still talk, and as family, but also if I'm having a hard time and I need that dad love, not that mom love or that wife love, I call him up. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to him on Father's Day, and it got me a little emotional. So when I got off the phone, I was with Mary Jack, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I kind of explained to him what was going on, and and I have this dude, and Mary Jack is younger than me, and he looked at me and he says, "You're that dude for me." You know what I mean? And man, that it really hit home, and it meant a lot to me. You know what I mean? That he felt that way, because we've been through some tough times together too. Or like I say, he's called me a few times when he's having a tough time, because it happens to all of us. You know what I mean?
Damn right it does. Yeah, something we don't talk about enough. Yeah,
that's community. You know what I mean? So it's is and should be so much deeper. You know what I mean? I meet a lot of people at the shows who come up to me, and they don't give a fuck about 9 Pound Hammer. They come up to me, and they're all about those positive videos I do. You know what I mean? Like, dude, like, those videos mean so much to me, and do more for me than you'll ever know, and and that's a righteous thing. I'm always really proud of that, and I can't help but get out my booth and give him a big hug.
That's beautiful, brother. And that's your believe, breathe, and achieve videos that you're referring to.
I don't call them that. I do a positive video every day, a positive quote, positive saying, or just something I'm feeling, and I always sign it, be positive at the end, and stuff like that. I do them in the morning and at night, and I'm somewhere between 20 and 30,000 of those videos, believe it or not, because I've been doing it a long time. It started when I had my first seizure, so I know the day I did the first one because I came home from the hospital, and my son came around the corner, and I was just like I could not be here right now for him. So I did a video that night of being grateful and being positive, and in the morning, I had so many responses from comments to DMs to likes and stuff. And I was like, man, people really like that, because a lot of social media is not that, you know what I mean? And so I did one that night. Same thing. And I just have never not done one since, you know what I mean? When I had a heart attack, I couldn't do one. So my little brother got on there and did it for me. There's been a couple times when I had brain surgery, like Rose got on there, and it's important to me that it never doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So it's been a cool thing, and it's made a dent, and I'm very proud of it. But like I say, that's community, and when those people affected by it come up to me at booths or send me DMs, it's pretty cool. You know what I mean? So
That's
There was
beautiful,
actually
brother.
somebody in the Twitch chat here. Shout out to Sledhead. He said, pretty sure he said this 5 years ago, but Jinx, positive Instagram vids helped me through tough days. So even here on the Twitch chat, we've got people who are just inspired, and your motivating words help them through tough times. So yeah, you're you're reaching a lot of people out there for sure.
I love it, and it does as much for me as it does for them. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you guys know, but my Instagram used to be a lot bigger. I had over 120,000 followers, and I got canceled. I'm pretty suspect to why that happened. Some people ganged up on me, whatever. But especially back then, like if I'm having a day where because it happens to all of us, where I'm just being negative, maybe a little hard to be around, it instantly puts me in check. Because it's like, bro, you get up every day and tell 120,000 people to be positive, and here you are acting like a dummy. It instantly just like calls me out, and
gives you accountability.
Changes where I'm going and where I'm heading that day, and and who I'm around, and yeah, like you say, it gives me accountability. So it's done as much for me as it has for the people. And there's there's been a few weird ones. I've had people write me suicide letters, and I video call them. You know what I mean? And they're so so happy. You know what I mean? Like, I can't believe you called me. We're chatting on video on Instagram, and I don't consider myself a star or nothing like that. But some people, take it pretty big deal to them. You know what I mean? That this guy in our community that people do know actually took a second out and video called me because I don't want somebody on my channel committing suicide or something like that. You know what I mean? And one guy was he was having a hard time with drugs and alcohol, but he was also a husband and a father. And so we had probably a couple-hour talk, and I told him if he wrote a solid page of positive affirmations about his situation, but I had to be positive. If he wrote a solid page every day for 30 days, I'd send him a pack of seeds, which is nothing. It's a pack of seeds. But to him, it was such a big deal, So he did it, and he had to send me a picture every day of his full page of affirmations. You know what I mean? And I think I sent him like a couple packs and a T-shirt or something like that. And he's recently called me, and he's like, "Bro, I'm 3 years clean and sober."
That's amazing.
I don't want to call it silly, but something so simple is just reaching out to somebody. And, like I said, I let him have it. I wasn't pussyfooting around with him when we were talking. I told him, like, bro, like every time you hold that bottle up to your mouth, you're like, I don't care about my kids. I don't care about my wife. You know what I mean? It really hit home with him, because
sometimes someone just has to tell you that too. You know what I mean? Sometimes we don't have that connection. Someone just says, yo, you need to smarten up, man. Someone just doesn't say that to you.
Having that person like you got, that you grew up with.
I meant it with love, but I wasn't gonna,
of course,
handle it with kid gloves either.
Tough,
you know what I mean?
tough love.
Are you serious about it? You want to go somewhere? Because people that see me on social media and stuff, there's a lot more to me than that. Like, say, I'm 54. You know what I mean? I've been through it. I've with drugs. You know what I mean? I've been dumb. There used to be a time where I was all about fighting. We used to Me and
I
D
hear
Range
ya.
used to work downtown, and we get fist fights all the time, and we kind of enjoyed it. And then, like I said, the drug abuse and not being as good to women as maybe we should. So growing up and growing out of those processes, and if I can help somebody out through what I know about that, and maybe even at a younger age, not have to get to a certain age before you figure the difference between being productive and being a dumb, what I mean? So I'm not innocent by any means. And
Sometimes that line is pretty thin too. You know what I mean?
Well, I hate to be
yeah,
that
well,
guy.
it's
Dumbass.
also
I got to pick my
it's
kiddos
also
up. Actually,
like,
speaking of family stuff, man, I'd love to have you back on to talk. We've had a few episodes where we talk prohibition stories and we talk about like our past and things. And I think some of that stuff is good to highlight where we've been
Yeah.
and where we are now. And I'd love to have you
Yeah.
back on and maybe talk a little deeper in who Jinx is as a
Yeah.
person for that.
I'm pretty
I feel
open
like
and
the
honest about
inspiration
it.
is huge.
I'm like say, if you get sent to drug counseling and your counselor's never done drugs, it's like, don't talk to me about
That's
shit.
dog shit.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's kind of how I
It's
look
like
at
someone
it.
who tests his ear but doesn't smoke it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Like it's like somebody that grows but doesn't smoke it,
Yeah.
which is very common with the big farms. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
so to me, it's like if I can turn that into something somebody can relate to, and maybe send their life in different directions, or just inspire them to to put themselves in check or something like that, then hey, that's great. So
That's what
why
it's all
not?
about.
Because it's happened to me. Like I say, with my mentor Andy, he grew up hard too, and faced some pretty tough challenges, and now dude's a psychotherapist. And it's kind of funny because he lives in Humboldt, and I've had people come up to me at my booth, and they're like, "Hey man, I know Andy, he's my counselor." Because he's not allowed to tell me, you know what I mean? Because those are his patients. But sometimes there's been a few of them who have worn shirts to their counseling session. And then Andy be like, "Do you know who Jinxproof is?" They're like, "Yeah, I totally do." So then they make that. He doesn't say he can't tell me, but because he's told them, a few people have come up to my booth and like, "Dude, Andy's my counselor," stuff like that. It's pretty neat, because he's a huge part of what encourages that in me. And like I say, when I was 14 years old, he came into my life. At 12, I got sentenced to 2 years, 3 months, and a day at a boys' work ranch. Cause I lived in the projects, and I was getting in mad trouble, and I was on the verge of going to what they called CYA, which is California Youth Administration, which is prison for kids. You know what I mean? And I was on the verge and had, like I say, I'd already done 2 years, 3 months, and a day at this boys' work ranch. Had he not come into my life, there's a good chance that's the path I would have taken. Who knows where the and who the I'd be today. You know what I mean? So
It's something I can relate to quite a bit. I come from a quite dark history myself. Drugs, horrible parents, no male role model. I totally get it, man. And it's a hell of a story. And I totally understand how, sometimes as a man, you need another man to have a role model, and it's very important. Very important.
Yeah,
Jinx, hell of a story, man.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, man. I totally appreciate it. This is great. We won't take up any more of your time. We've been blessed with so much of your time. Thank you so much. This has been truly been an honor. So
thanks, man.
Real Jinx, where can we can't tell people where to buy things, but where can people come hang out or find you?
The easiest way is my Instagram, which is Jinxproof 2.0. Be leery, because there's a ton of fake Jinxproof accounts that are trying to sell you that they're just collecting your money. Unfortunately, whenever you get a little ground, it happens. You know what I mean? Like the other seed companies, there's tons of fake pages too, but it's Jinxproof 2.0. There is a link in my bio to anything else I do as far as my website and stuff like that. So
and what's your website?
Jinxproofs with an S, Jinxproofsdankbank.com. So those are definitely the two easiest ways to find me. I mean, I have the Discord. I started with that social club thing. I'm not on there that much, but I used to do the Cannabuzz, but unfortunately they didn't survive. So, but yeah, those are definitely the two best ways is the Instagram or the website. So.
Well, appreciate it, Jinx. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Just awesome story. Like Rob said it, man. We would love to have you on for another episode, maybe a prohibition stories, because we do those quite often. So on behalf of myself, the chat, the crew here on From the Stash, Jinx, thank you so much for being with us. it was a hell of a story, man. Thanks to everybody on Twitch for joining us. Thanks to you on YouTube. Don't forget, you can check us out from thestash.com for anything and everything from the stash. Thank you guys for being here. On behalf of myself, Rob, and Chris, peace out, guys.